5D is a person who can use their left and right mode, which is why it's a 3-year-old with a whole heart. Because when those sensations come up, you're going to have a relationship with your mind and your body. And that's somatic harmony, restored and embodied self. The optimization of the human being, Human 101, is an integrated brain, integration of the brain, so all hands on deck. This default mode network is downregulated, and so you're not scanning. There's no neuroception. In fact, when they do studies, small studies, I got this one from Ruth Lanius in my recent course that I'm taking. It's an educational one to support people who want to move beyond trauma and to spot if they're blocking themselves. Because see, a person actually does stay with unresolved trauma when they shame, blame, fault, and or revenge. They're in their shame cycle. Doesn't matter if they're projecting or not. They stay stuck in their pattern. Their safety behavior trauma pattern is a brain that in fact is working with the frontal lobes shut down, and they're using their amygdala, their alert system. So the study that Ruth points out is neurobiological data shows that with eye contact, a person who has no trauma, the higher social connection areas of the brain are lit up. I think they're here. While a PTSD group, their reaction to eye contact is their alarm system is activated, the mid part of the brain, and there's threat. They want to escape. And here's where another neuroscience lady explained in this short interview how neuroplasticity can work your frontal lobes, but it can actually also be redirected to your amygdala, which then will override the frontal lobes. And when you understand that if a person has childhood trauma and an insecure attachment system and they're scanning consistently, and this is where it all comes together for a human baby who's a mystic to say, okay, functional adults, it's a securely attached person. 1. Enlightenment, it's a soul age group of people who know that not anyone has all the answers to anything, even without spirituality and a Sadhguru saying, the whole intelligent ones wander and dead sure, idiots are, or the idiots are dead sure, or dead sure, whatever. Anyways, the point is that a person who's an adaptive child is projecting their breadcrumb trail like Hansel and Gretel to find their way home. Their way home is in the body. And that body, first of all, is that heart. I know I don't do a very great job with it, but the heart is where your home is. Heart is where the home. So on that note, integration of the brain happens when you have been able to get your left and right to be friends. You can have a conversation in your own brain with forgiveness. And it isn't about you forgiving in the way that people who have belief systems and the whole, they're not worthy. It's actually something different. Knowing that we all make mistakes. Nobody's their greatest mistake. We're all human babies. The stories serve the purpose before the scientific methodology began to be able to build enough data to say, no, you know what? The nervous system, that's why. Stephen Porges, let me move back to him for a minute. He is still working to build his research. He chose to not become a businessman. I have one of his courses because he wants to keep on working on the polyvagal theory. He knows it helps people. The therapists that are using what he shares knows that it helps people. But he also knows as a researcher, as an academic, that he needs to continue to add up data the way that this works. Because I'm going to have to prove and disprove. And so, again, nobody that actually appreciates education will say, stop doing your research now because we want the ancients to be the ones who rule it. No, that would be ridiculous. Like when people say technology is evil, do you think that the sun is going to live forever? And I had an argument with it, and it was actually just a conversation, but it turned into this huge debate. And I was making a point, we don't know the future. I wasn't making a point of saying, yes, I know that the sun will not. No, I'm not going to know. I'm not going to be there. That's my point. I'm not going to make a statement about something that I know as a fact I don't and won't know as a fact. Why would I make a false statement of something that I don't know? While I also know that true scientific methodology people are going to consistently work on things. And anybody who wants to tell me, science or not, that they know everything, I'm going to look at it and be like, yeah, I don't need to say you're an idiot. I'm going to know that you are a bullshitter, because that's how it works if you're using an independent brain. And that's though a 3-year-old that doesn't have a broken heart. Because see, I was a 3-year-old when I'm going to share the story. No, I was a 3-year-old when I did do something that Daniel Siegel called a differentiated self. He said, wow, how great. In a conversation with him, you were already a differentiated self as a 3-year-old. And so that means that I, compared to my mother, my caregiver, have thoughts and feelings. I did not feel ashamed of telling her how I think and how I feel. And when it was time to make even more of a statement, which was, I disagree with what you did, I didn't go and let me make it all better. And I didn't even do, I'm superior to you. No, I showed my disapproval. And that was that. And that's because a differentiated self, in fact, the person who is going to be objective with who they are will know when their 3-year-old is coming up, because we're going to get all rigid and pissy. Okay, and another side note before we run out of time, because I keep on remembering there's one aspect. The attachment system is important. Your social system is important. The first year of your life, this part about if you're going to have secure attachment or an attachment wound is important. And that's why childhood trauma and an inner child and knowing about it is important, as well as knowing about the codependency aspects, because a person who has heartbreak is a person who wants to be seen by others. And that's a longing that is our mammalian heritage. But securely attached people can handle being their own emotional, mental, and physical support. If you don't see me and you don't do this and you don't do that, or whatever you do, my heart doesn't break because you didn't, my social system doesn't synchronize to my peer group. As a teenager, that's when we begin to make other choices. And when you maintain the 5D stance, Purusha Prakriti, oneness consciousness, it's unconditional love, because you're maintaining the heart body, the valley body, the physical, energy, mental, without yoga. It's because you're a person who knows how to say no with the ventral vagal state, or yes, and not feel shame. The 3-year-old mark is important because that's when you begin to walk around and move around. So even if you have, let's say, secure attachment, you will still have the aspect of getting yelled at. And the minute that happens is when the posture of shame, this is from Janina Fisher as she explains how the posture of shame works. And this is where, when we have attachment researchers discussing why are there so many individuals with situations going on in their relationships, because they're surprised, since statistically proven for now with the whatever number of data points they have, and I'm thinking it's focused on the Western world, but I'm not sure, it would seem that most people are securely attached, and yet they have not the functional adult relationships. And so the 3-year-old mark is where you begin to get yelled at. And one of the examples that was given from another attachment coach, I believe this is a therapist for relationships with attachment styles, and she pointed out, you're a 3-year-old or 4, whatever it is, and you're playing superhero cape, and you get yelled at because you're bothering your parent. But they don't just yell at you. They say, why are you being a stupid moron, you little whatever it is? So they insult you. And she was making a point to say this is when your creativity gets broken down, and we all have the narcissist aspect, narcissism trait or something like that, not the diagnosis, that we all have the ego that is going to want that attention, the 2-year-old, the 3-year-old. When your creativity gets shamed, this is where, as she describes, that moment will remain in history. In fact, if somebody's doing something stupid, I see many people like, oh, what are they doing? That's where, if you got yelled at for something you were playing and you got into the shame posture, it's a feeling. People don't relate to their emotions. They don't go and make their 3-year-old whole and have fun with life. So your inner child is actually always a part of you. And 5D mystics or functional adults, we get to have this relationship because we build mental and emotional regulation skills. So working with your left and right mode of the brain, working with getting to that restorative embodied self, and using scientific methodology as well as the mental health community to support people who need the extra support. Holistic and everything in the in-between, spiritual and spirituality, is not enough for somebody who doesn't know their human makeup. They need to understand the human baby part to be able and be their beautiful 3-year-old as an adult. So tune in for more. We're done for the day. I hope you enjoyed, and if you have any questions, let me know.